Lee Brahim Murray Lanrani, born the 12th of November 1977 in Greenwich, London, is a Moroccan-English career criminal, drug dealer, convicted bank robber and former mixed martial arts fighter. In 2005, his promising career in the Ultimate Fighting Championship was cut short after he was stabbed multiple times in a Mayfair nightclub at reality star Lauren Pope's birthday party. He was arrested in Rabat, Morocco in June 2006 and sentenced to 10 years in jail in June 2010 for masterminding the armed Securitas Depot robbery in Kent, UK, where over $92 million, £53,116,760 of cash banknotes belonging to the Bank of England were stolen by Murray and his associates on the 22nd of February 2006. It was the largest known cash robbery in the world during peacetime. After a foiled attempt to escape prison and a failed appeal, his jail term was extended to 25 years on the 30th of November 2010. He is currently being held at a prison in Tefelt, northwestern Morocco, and despite being incarcerated fathered a child from prison in 2010. In 2018, Murray in an interview stated he was training to fight in prison, and still planned a UFC comeback, with the hope of securing a pardon from King Mohammed VI of Morocco. UFC President Dana White commented on Murray that, "He's a scary son of a bitch, and I don't mean fighter-wise." Early life on his mother Barbara Murray's side, Lee's family hails from Bermondsey, a densely populated semi-docklands part of South London between Tower Bridge and the Old Kent Road, much of which a traditional breeding ground for professional criminals, especially armed robbers. Following World War II, the Murrays were among thousands of working-class families relocated from bomb-ravaged inner London to council estates further out. The Murray home was 6 Godstow Road in Abbey Wood between Shooters Hill, so named because it was once a notorious area for highway robbery, and the River Thames, in the ESE of London. Barbara was a hairdresser and later a telephonist. On a holiday to Gran Canaria, she met Lee's father, Brahim Lanrani, a kitchen hand from the southern Moroccan city of Sidi Ifni. The couple's first child, Lee, would be born in St. Nicholas Hospital, Plumstead, on the 12th of November 1977, and was initially raised by his mother while Brahim continued to live and work in the Canary Islands. Eventually he came to England and married Barbara in 1984, and in 1985 she gave birth to Lee's only sibling, Arkaya. Then the family moved nearby to 11 Butt Marsh Close, Plumstead, and Murray attended Foxfield Primary School, where he would meet his future wife, Siobhan Rawlings, 3 years his junior. Murray's closest associates at this point were boys from Butt Marsh and the surrounding estates who called themselves the Butt Marsh Boys. Described as happy kids who used to play like normal kids on the estate, the boys fought to establish an internal pecking order and believed they had a duty to look after Butt Marsh, sometimes engaging in fights with boys from neighboring estates. A skinny youngster, Murray's preferred method of attack was running into battle windmilling his arms around his head with a manic expression on his face, a maneuver which, combined with his protruding ears, earned him the nickname of Alien, which he hated. Murray had a difficult relationship with his father, who was often drunk and described as a frightening, violent man who was volatile and domineering. Largely absent from the first 7 years of his life, Brahim demanded his respect and obedience, to the point of a police warning for mistreatment. Eventually, Lee began to fight back against his father. The next-door neighbor heard that Brahim actually went and hit Lee, and Lee snapped, just turned round and knocked his dad clean out. Once he realized he could take down a big man like that, I think that's what changed Lee into the man he is now, a thug. Their relationship grew so tempestuous that Brahim felt living together would result in a death, so he moved out. Barbara was then left to raise Lee and Rakia largely on her own, and moved back to the Abbey Wood estate, to a council house on Groveberry Road around the corner from her parents'. This time Lee began attending Eaglesfield Boys' School, which is where he would meet his eventual best friend and partner in crime, Paul Allen. Murray, who enjoyed reading and puzzles, was a subpar student, mainly doing well in football, failing to make the school team. Teachers found him unmanageable. He was expelled and found enrollment at Woolwich Polytechnic School to complete the statutory years of school. By then Murray was living life on the streets, with stealing and drug dealing a part of everyday activity. He and the Butt Marsh boys were allegedly in daily contact with Nigerian drug dealers who operated at Plumstead train station, and an eventual turf war broke out that saw Murray and his friends win a local territory in drug trading. Murray would eventually be convicted of possession of cocaine and marijuana, was named in the Old Bailey as a notorious London drug dealer who employed Paul Allen as his right-hand man plus a network of drug runners. One of his best friends from this time was a local ruffian and future mixed martial artist named Mark "The Beast" Epstein, who claimed that he and Lee sold crack cocaine and Lee made a lot of money from that. Murray also proved himself adept at the more violent side of selling drugs, typically to control territory and make sure customers pay. Murray himself claimed that, "Some people would probably say I was a bully, but a bully to me is someone that goes for easy targets and people who can't fight back. Me, I went for all targets." Murray was known for punching people almost at random in the street, as well as habitually harassing a man who ran a local corner shop. Murray was sentenced to a term at Feltham Young Offenders Institution, the first of his custodial sentences for what would rank as his more minor offenses such as assault and thievery. Others followed in Dover and Norwich. Upon emerging from Feltham, Murray devoted energy to the gym, lifting weights and drinking weight gain shakes to add bulk to his lanky, 6 feet 3-inch frame. Joining him was Allen, who by then was known as the Enforcer, presumably from drug dealing activity. Murray and Allen were soon using steroids and spending the money they earned from selling drugs on deluxe cars. The police stopped Murray regularly and, because they suspected he was a drug dealer, attempted to place an informer in his gang but could not get enough evidence to prosecute Murray. He was contemptuous of the police, often mocking and intimidating them on the streets, sometimes following officers around in his car. Some officers at Plumstead Police Station told his biographer others felt wary, it would be best not to aggravate him, and added, "He's a very dangerous man." Murray's girlfriend Siobhan gave birth to first child, Lily Jane, on the 24th of December 1998. Weeks later Murray was caught up in a turf war with rival drug dealers that led to the arrest of Epstein and more than a dozen others, many ending up in prison. Murray, however, got clean away, with Epstein saying that he was the only one that slipped through the net. "I mean, lucky boy. But he's always been lucky. I went to prison for 3 years." Murray would marry Siobhan on the 24th of November 2000, listing himself on their wedding certificate as a professional fighter. Murray would then divorce Siobhan in 2008 while incarcerated in a Moroccan jail. Mixed martial arts career. Shortly after dodging arrest, Murray was introduced to mixed martial arts, and he competed in his first fight on the 5th of December 1999 at an event called Millennium Brawl that was held at Hemel Hempstead Pavilion. His opponent was Rob Hudson, and Murray knocked him out in the first round, prompting event promoter Andy Jardine to say he was so quick they called him Lightning Lee Murray. Murray's successful debut led him to begin training seriously. He jogged around the Abbey Wood estate and attended 2 gyms, London Shoot Fighters in White City for wrestling, and Peacock's Gym in Canning Town for boxing. Martin Bowers, who ran Peacock's with his brothers Tony and Paul, described Murray as a very nice boy who conducted himself well. Bowers said that Murray reminded him of many other young men who he had seen in his gym over the years, men who had come from troubled backgrounds but whose lives were given structure by sport. Notably, at the same time that Murray was training at Peacock's Gym, the Bowers brothers were planning a series of robberies, the biggest being a brazen raid on a high-security warehouse at Gatwick Airport. Their scheme involved disguising themselves as security officers, using a fake Brinks mat van to get into the depot, and then stealing £1 million in foreign currency. After Scotland Yard found out about the planned heist, all three brothers were arrested and jailed. It has been speculated that while Murray had no prior knowledge about the caper, the schematics that were later revealed publicly may have given him some of the ideas that were used in the not dissimilar Securities Depot robbery. Murray had 4 professional fights in 2000. The first was at the 12th of March encounter with Mike Tomlinson under the banner of Ring of Truth. Murray won the fight via Kimura submission in the first round, but it was in February 2004 that he would expand on some of the events surrounding the fight. Writing on a message board in a now archived thread from the mixed martial arts website ShareDog, Murray told the story of watching Prince Naseem Ham's fight at a pub the night before his own match with Tomlinson, when a patron stood in front of Murray and then accused him of stealing his seat after being asked to move. Murray allegedly knocked the man, and his friend who attempted to aid him, unconscious, followed by knee strikes to knock out a bartender who rushed to break up the fight. The following morning, and day of his fight with Tomlinson, Murray was unable to close his left hand. After taping the hand, Murray relied solely on his good right hand, stating that he caught him Tomlinson with a few good rights. He was rocked, so he took me down, then I caught him in a key lock on the ground and won the fight. After that I went to the hospital and got my hand plastered up. It was broke in 2 places. Murray's next 2 bouts took place on the 17th of June 2000 in a tournament fought at Extreme Challenge 34. Murray defeated his first opponent, Chris Albandia, by ankle lock in the first round. Murray would later say that he thought Albandia was a kickboxer because he was wearing tie shorts, so he started the fight out with leg kicks. When Albandia surprised Murray by performing a single leg takedown, Murray said he sprawled and took him to the side of the cage where I was kneeing him and punching constantly. He dropped again and took me down, going for a leg lock. So I grabbed his leg and went to trade leg locks with him. I cranked an Achilles lock on and I think it must have snapped because there was a real loud crack. Even Pat heard it in my corner, and when Chris got up he couldn't put weight on it. So I won that one. The victory advanced Murray to the second round of the tournament, but he would lose by armbar to Canadian submission specialist Joe Dirksen in the opening round. Murray said that when he went into the final, I was so happy and excited about winning the first, I just sort of lost my focus. Dirksen's a BJJ Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy who's only ever lost to Matt Hughes and Eugene Jackson. Anyway, he just took me straight to the ground. I didn't even make him pay while he tried. He launched a 3-sub attack at me with me in his guard. I fended off 2 and then got submitted with a key lock. I learned a lot from that fight. Murray's next fight was just weeks later, at the 9th of July contest against Danny Rushton, a fighter who had gained a reputation for toughness due to his competing in true no-holds-barred competitions in Russia. The match ended up a no contest, however, after Rushton collapsed in the first round due to exhaustion. At some point in 2000, Murray traveled to Bettendorf, Iowa to train at the renowned Miletich Fighting Systems camp run by former UFC welterweight champion Pat Miletich. In an interview conducted before the Rushton fight, Murray stated that while at MFS he trained a hell of a lot of groundwork. And a lot of kickboxing too. I prefer stand-up. Well, I just prefer to strike really. I like to keep the fight standing up and punch. Mind you, I like to punch from the mount too. I like to strike. On the 11th of March 2001, Murray fought to a draw against Chris Bacon at Millennium Brawl 2. Capital Punishment. He followed that up with a first-round knockout of Gary Warren at Millennium Brawl 3, Independence Day on 1 July. On the 11th of September 2004, Lee fought future UFC middleweight champion Anderson, the Spider Silva in Cage Rage 8 for the vacant middleweight title. Silva won by unanimous decision. Murray amassed an 8-1, 1-NC record in smaller promotions before receiving a contract with the Ultimate Fighting Championship, UFC. In his UFC debut, he defeated Jorge Rivera by triangle choke armbar in the first round. This was Murray's only fight in the UFC due to complications with his US visa as a result of ongoing criminal prosecution against him in the UK for assault, after he attacked a man during a road rage incident. This led to Murray signing with the Cage Rage promotion, which was also short-lived, due to injuries resulting from a stabbing, which prevented Murray from continuing his MMA career. Street brawls witnesses claim Murray was involved in a scuffle with then UFC light heavyweight champion Tito Ortiz outside a nightclub in London after UFC 38 in July 2002, in which Murray allegedly fought Ortiz. Murray asserts he knocked Ortiz out, a claim substantiated by Matt Hughes in his book, Made in America, The Most Dominant Champion in UFC History, pg. 168, as well as Pat Miletich during an interview with ESPN. Tito Ortiz, however, denies he was knocked out. Chuck Liddell has also stated that he did not see Tito knocked unconscious. On the 28th of September 2005, Murray was hospitalized after being stabbed in a brawl during the birthday party of British glamour model Lauren Pope. He suffered a punctured lung and a severed artery. According to the doctor who performed the life-saving surgery on Murray, he was resuscitated 4 times during the operation that saved his life. When thanked, the doctor remarked that Lee should thank the nurses who ran the bags of blood from the blood bank, because that was what saved his life. Securitas Depot robbery. On the 25th of June 2006, in a joint operation with Moroccan police, Murray was arrested at a shopping center in the Soueisi district of the capital Rabat for suspected involvement in the Securitas Depot robbery. Moroccan police said they had to use specialist techniques to arrest the suspects because they were specialists in martial arts and firearms. Kent police said in a statement that they had been tracking Murray for 3 months and would be seeking his extradition from Morocco. There is no treaty between the UK and Morocco, and the process was expected to take months. Later, Moroccan police revealed that Murray had also been charged with possession of hard drugs. On the 27th of June 2006, Kent police confirmed the news of Murray's arrest in Morocco, and also stated that over 30 people had now been arrested in conjunction with the investigation. In June 2009, an attempt to escape Sale prison in Morocco was made by Murray. Small saws were found in a plate of biscuits in Murray's cell by another prisoner who broke into it. Prison officials believe Murray was planning to cut through the iron bars of his cell window with the saws. To make the escape through the small window easier, Murray had lost a significant amount of weight. Murray was in a different cell at the time as punishment for being caught with a laptop computer, with internet access and 5 kilos of drugs. Other prisoners in Sale held it against Murray that he was able to use his money to smuggle in items like these, as well as expensive clothes. The fellow prisoner who broke into his cell was doing so to steal some of Murray's belongings. He was convicted of the £53 million crime in a Moroccan court in June 2010. Kent police said Murray must serve 10 years in jail in Morocco for his involvement. This sentence was then extended to 25 years on the 30th of November 2010. Film biography Time Incorporated announced on the 4th of August 2008 that they would be making a film about Lee Murray's alleged role in the robbery, based on an article about him in Sports Illustrated called Breaking the Bank. In addition to the robbery, the film will also concentrate on Murray's life, including his mixed martial arts career. Mixed martial arts record. References. External links: Professional MMA record for Lee Murray from Shared. Lee Murray at UFC. Lee Murray MMA record.